My name, it's actually Cherie. It is. It's totally spelled different than what I went by. But I was raised by my grandmas. I have two grandmas, one great grandma and two grandpas that raised me because my mom was sick and my dad was working in Detroit. So I didn't go to live with my dad and moved to Chassel until I was 15. So two of my grandmas, they only spoke Finnish, and my grandpas. So getting back to my name, I lived with my grandparents when I was real young. So my mom named me Cherie. And I didn't know what my name was because my grandma didn't like that name. So she called me Cheryl. Well, I didn't like that name because I was roly-poly, and so they'd, holler, Cheryl the barrel. That's ending. So anyway, I changed it to Sherry. So, and that's all well and good until I got married. Grandpa's still married to some Cheryl, and so I never got it changed. But that's the story of the name. Growing up, we were quite poor, and my grandparents, of course, they were all retired, no jobs, so they were living on Social Security and whatever, so it was tough at times. Let's see, what can I tell you? But I loved the farm, and we would go up there on the weekends and during the summer. It's when the summer's on the farm with the other grandmas and grandpas. And so they, of course, didn't speak any English, so I really had to learn a lot there, And I loved the barn. To this day, I still love the barn. I used to jump in hay bales and, in the soft hay, and they had cows, and every morning they'd be out there milking those cows, and my bedroom was just across from where the barn is. Yeah. And I could hear that pump going. At first, they would just milk by hand. But then the more cows they got, they had to get the electric pump. So you would hear that sound, boom, boom. I mean, it was just, kind of a magical thing when you're little and you're half awake, But they'd be out in the barn till 5 in the morning, or from 5 in the morning on out. So that was kind of cool. That whole farm life was different. There was absolutely no TV, no phone. So we just had to make up our own games and whatever, And hide and seek was a big thing. I remember one time I told my brother, there's a ladder along the house, and I told him to climb up on the ladder to the top, and I said, we'll put these leaves in your sleeves, because we get button-down shirt, and so I stuck those leaves in his sleeves and stuff. Told him to climb up there and he'll fly just like a bird. And so he came flying down. Well, he didn't come like a bird. Landed flat, got hurt, of course. So that for some reason that stuck in my mind, but we just, played a lot of games. I was really into dolls, so we played house a lot, and so that was kind of. Well, I'll start with Grandpa, how I met Grandpa. So after I got out of school, that was in 1968. In fact, 2 more years, I'll have 50 years since I graduated. So, like I said, Grandpa just came out of the Vietnam War, right? And he got a job at Gartner's, and I was in the office, and he was on a furniture truck delivering furniture. So we were both pretty young. And the first time I saw him, he came up to my desk, and he said, "Hey, Kyra, what are you doing later?" "I'm waiting for you to pick me up." And so he came on his Harley. He had a Harley. I don't remember what kind it was because he's had I don't know how many bikes since, but anyway, and he had, his hair was long. I was starting to allude to that because your hair was so short. And Grandpa's hair, it actually went over his ears. And then, with that helmet on and stuff. And, but anyway, so he came and picked me up, and we started dating, and he bought me a black motorcycle jacket, and a blue helmet, and we had matching. So that was kind of cool, and we'd go riding, And so anyway, we met in Maine, went steady in June, and they're in July. Bang, bang, bang. You know, people who say they'll never last. They don't even know each other. It's like, hello, we got going on 48 years now. Grandpa's a trip. I mean, he really is. He's just got such a great sense of humor, so it always makes me laugh. Maybe that's the whole reason for a good marriage. You're going to make your wife laugh or feel sorry for yourself. Oh yeah, okay. Well, at that time, Grandpa and I were both working. I think Grandpa got a raise. I started off at Gartner's for $1.50. And then I was so happy because my raise was 15 cents. So I was making $1.65. So Grandpa, I think, might have been making $2.25. So between the two of us, it was under $5. You know, and of course, you know, groceries and everything else was quite a bit cheaper, but still, it was hard to manage, you know. And I remember, I don't know, I just remember a lot of good things, you know, about if you don't have a whole lot of money, then you make do with what you have, you know. And I remember one time, our daughter, Deanna, she was so excited because she got a baton. I bought her a baton, and it wasn't even her birthday. And she thought that was just the greatest thing, you know. So, and Grandpa, he was always wanting to fix things, you know. He could tear an engine apart and put it back together, you know, and he was always into the old cars. He always had old cars, you know. And so over the years, I think the last time he counted, he had like 40 of them, you know. And one of our sons too, he was big into that. And our other son still is, you know, he's a mechanic. You know, so they really, that's their thing, you know, that's their thing, the cars and the car shows and goodness. That's been a big part of our life. And your mom was, you know, my daughter. She grew up as a tomboy because, you know, that's what it was. The kids in the town when they were growing up, and we were like newlyweds, and even after all the kids were born, they all played together. You know, again, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have computers, you know. We did have Donkey Kong, you know, and that was a big thing, you know, in those days. But the kids would play cops and robbers or kick the can, all these outdoor games. Have you ever played those? Yeah, so you know what that's about. So it was like a community, a small community. And I think that's the best way to raise kids, you know. And like I said, for Christmas and the holidays, we have friends and family. It was nice. Yeah.
Before that.
Okay. Well, my first job, my first paying job was I was a night crawler picker. Oh, and I could pick night crawlers fast, believe me, because there's a certain technique to that, you know. Have you ever tried? Well, this is the way you do it. You take this finger right here, and the night crawler, of course, comes out, you know, late at night, especially if the ground is wet, and you put down your finger like that, and then you grab with your thumb and slowly pull out this way, not up. And so he's just So anyway, we would have cans, coffee cans, you know, on our belts. And I was a tomboy too, by the way. So we had coffee cans on our belts, and then we had headlamps, you know. And our neighbor he had a bait shop, you know, so he needed the night crawlers for his business. So he hired the different kids to come, and he would take us out on the weekends, you know, or during the summer, to like the golf course or the cemeteries, you know, to pick the crawlers. Well, we had so much fun in the cemetery scaring each other, you know, and stuff. And so pretty soon, you know, it was so easy to pick those crawlers that my bucket was all full, you know. So then we turn them in, he'd count them, and I got half a cent a word. That was my first job. So from there on, I worked as a waitress at Bramer's restaurant, and that was, as you go out towards Chasso, past the golf course, there was a little restaurant there. And so I used to make a lot of ice cream dishes and that. But when I first started, I would make banana splits. Well, I got it just perfect, except forgot to put the bananas in. And then I remember this one boy that I really had a crush on. He came in there with another girl. And so I told my friend or one of the waitresses said, "I'm not waiting on him." Well, if I go over there, she'll get that ice cream on her head. Oh, jeez, when you think about it. So anyway, that was really the second job, was waitressing. And then after I got out of school, I got a job with as a secretary. And so I worked that for a while, and then I went to Gartner's in the office. They had an opening there, so I thought it'd be better pay, because when I became a secretary, then afterward, when I was at SUNY College, I had to go into the schools, and I was elevated to another position. I went as a high school coordinator, so I would go in and talk to students and then bring materials and talk to the counselor, whatever. And so at one point, we had one of the high school classes help us do a mailing and stuffing envelopes and such. I could not believe it. The music was on in that room, and the students were just all over the place. I mean, when we were in school, we had to sit you sat in your seat and that was it. You didn't sass back at the teacher, nothing. And these kids were just joking around with the teachers like they were friends. I mean, it was totally different, Our teachers were up at the front of the class at their desk, and all they had to do was look at you, and boy, you straightened out, So, okay, then, and then I went over to tech. And so I was secretary for the Dean of Engineering, which I thought was, the coolest thing. And it was a good job. I really enjoyed working there. So, those are my jobs. Well, yeah, this is kind of cute because my sisters and I decided we were talking like we talk now about things, what we did on the farm, and they were quite a bit younger than I am, so a lot of the memories just came, from what I remember. So my sister Chris really loves to write. So anyway, she would be jotting down notes, and so we decided, Jim Curdy from Finlandia, he wanted me to host one of the dinners, greet him at the door and whatever. And so we decided that we would put on a skit for this dinner, So, but we weren't going to tell anybody. And so we wrote this little skit out and performed it, and my sister Chris. So anyway, then we kept building onto the script, And pretty soon we had an hour program with music and, and did you see it? I think you saw it. Did you? You can't remember, hey? Okay, and so a lot of the stories that we talked about are on that tape, But anyway, as it turned out, then we first did local shows, and
what would you do on the shows?
Well, we'd sit around a kitchen table and we'd start to reminisce, and it's hard to explain how we did, but we each had our own segment, and so we would just banter back and forth, and telling the stories like that. At one point, Chris would be real serious and say how difficult it was for them in Finland, and I'm sure there was a lot of tears when the people left, to come to America and stuff. So that's how it would start, and then we pretend that we were getting company for sauna, and I'd speak in Finnish, tulkaa sisälle, tule, oikein hyvä coffee on keitto, and the whole thing, which means come in, the coffee is cooking, so, and then we'd add little things to the show, like a lot of the remedies and things, I mean, you really have to kind of listen to the tape, otherwise, you'd sit here for a whole hour while I'm trying to explain it. So anyway, the show really took off, and so then they had these huge festivals. So the biggest group that we performed in front of was 4,000, and that was out west at this huge festival. And then word got around, and so I was the contact person. So they would call and say, well, will you come here or will you come there? So we were in New York, we were in Canada twice performing, which was really exciting. We met a lot of people, and the people would be in the audience, and the older people especially, and you could see them, they would, just be crying, because it brought back memories of them and their parents, and these people, some of them were 70 years old and never learned to speak Finnish, and the reason for that is the parents wanted that language separate, so they could talk amongst themselves, without the kids hearing and that.